Hey Rohan, thanks a lot for agreeing to do this. Been very excited for this conversation, especially seeing how audio is picking up in India. Look forward to the chat.
Thanks, Avril. It's great. Thanks for having me here. I'd love to. I think it has been pending for quite some time. Thanks for having me.
So Rohan, there's a question that a lot of people have a tough time answering, and I'm going to start with something that seems like a bouncer. What's one truth that you believe, which very few people agree with you on?
So I think I mean, I've been building upon this for quite some time. Again, this thought process is that if you of course, if you think of life in general, I feel the game I feel capitalism is a game. It's sort of like I treat what I'm doing like in the form of a game that you start at a few at some level, and then you can you learn, you upskill yourself, and then you go to higher level, then some things become easier for you, right? Like in a game you get more skilled at certain activities. And I think when that happens, if you think of capitalism as a game, what really happens is you don't you always approach it from a mindset of a gamer, that you want to improve.
Hmm.
Even if you fail, you can start again. And I
Right.
think that really that is something that I feel is something that I've been approaching overall, how capital I mean my thought process around capitalism, frankly. Yeah.
Got it. And has this game approach been the same throughout life? How long is this philosophy for you?
This is actually, I would say, post college.
Okay. Okay.
I was just trying to figure out, how things work, and I
Right.
think I found a lot of, and sort of similarities between a game and how this is, right? Everyone's
Mhm.
trying to, learn more, go to higher levels, right?
Right.
Of course, some people want to, they are at like level, the max levels possible, right? But unlike a game, like a game designer would agree with the fact that professional players usually sometimes get bored with the game, so
Mhm.
eventually they churn out. But
Right.
this is a game which is never gets it's always interesting, never gets
Right.
boring.
I
Yeah.
understand. No, super. Um, was taking up science and getting into an IIT the first level of the game for you?
At that point, I never thought of it like that, right? It was, I think, typical sort of engineering. I had to. I mean, it was like from a young age. I had to. I mean, it was the path was set up, right? You had to
Right.
do engineering. So, but I think it was a good step, though,
Mm.
for sure. But yeah, no, I mean, I had never really thought about it like that.
I understand. No, I know you mentioned college. I was just like,
Yeah.
how did you think of that process? Also, an observation I made, I don't know how true this is, but uh, it seems like founders who are from IIT Kanpur and Kharagpur tend to have a gravitation towards Bharat focused place. Is that a correct observation? I'm completely off the mark. And is there some reason for it?
Um, um, Not too sure about it, frankly, Avril, but I think, of course, I mean, we lived in, I mean, my 4 years in Kharagpur was really amazing.
Hmm.
I've been born brought up in Delhi, and Kharagpur was a really good relief from the, hustling, bustling city life.
Right.
Maybe that would have impacted a bit, but I would say that, it depends, right? I mean, on what opportunities one would find. Yeah.
Right. No, I mean that makes sense because the share chat founders also Kanpur,
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I've
yeah.
observed generally it could be possible because um, you are viewing growing up, because all of us in college, like I studied in Bombay, the kind
Hmm.
of people we are growing up with and the environment we are growing up with, I think that influences our thought process as well from a consumer standpoint. But it was just a hunch, thought I'll ask you
Yeah,
about.
I mean, could be, yeah, could be for sure.
And so, you get into college. What were your early decision points? And you got into like tech startups pretty quickly. So, any active thought process, or did you just kind of walk into it, exploring what was the thought process in terms of deciding to take up a particular career after college?
So for me, I think college was where initially I got seduced by finance. So I started after college. I was worked in an investment bank called Credit Suisse. I think frankly, I think I always had a fascination towards sort of building new products. I was always fascinated by when someone comes up with a new product and you see millions of users using it. Although I worked at Credit Suisse for a year or so, and I think I realized it's not something I would want to do long term. At that point of time, I think I was looking for, I realized that if I want to build new products, I probably should get into product roles. So fortunately, I think got an opportunity in a startup pretty early on. And frankly, I think that was a pivotal point for me because I started building content products in that startup. So back in 2014, 2015. So yeah, but I think I always wanted to build products, but didn't know the path when I was in college, frankly. But I think it became clearer once I started working.
Understand. And so, what was your earliest decision after you graduated from college? Why do you decide to do that? When did you also start thinking of starting a company? If you can walk
Yeah.
us through that journey.
Yeah, so I think in general in college specifically, I was pretty interested in, as I said, in trading, essentially finance and trading. So even at Credit Suisse, I was part of the New York trading desk.
Got it.
So I think it was good adrenaline, trading, and it was good fun, right? But I think ever since college, I mean, I was always fascinated that hey, people building new crazy products and actually leading to mainstream adoption of those products. I realized the best path to do that would be to get into a product role. There was a startup called Cube26. So we used to build sort of mobile operating systems for Indian OEMs back in the day, like for instance, Carbon, Micromax, Lava, all these smartphones. So I started my stint there and I wanted to and I was clear that I wanted to be in consumer product, right? I wanted to build new consumer products. There, we started, there was a startup where we actually started building short video applications back in 2015. I still feel it was a pretty interesting opportunity even back then. And I think I think that's where my content journey started. Frankly, I built a short video product even in 2015 in Cube26. And the startup that I was working at, Cube26, got acquired by Paytm. And I think even at Paytm, I was figuring out their content play. And I think what really happened when Paytm was, I always used to consume audio content a lot, because for some reason, I actually prefer a lot listening books for a long period of time. It just, I mean, I'm able to complete a lot of books when I'm listening. Like I listen to it at 2x speed, and it just helps me quickly finish it, and just get the good insights. So I used to listen like 3-4 hours a week from a very long time. But at Paytm, things changed. I commuted from Gurgaon to Noida. That was like a terrible commute, but in hindsight, of course, it sort of gave me a lot of inspiration for Pocket FM, in the sense that I used to commute 3 hours a day. And what happened was, if you're consuming 15 hours of content every week, you can't consume so much self-help and knowledge content, frankly, right? It's just too much content. And I've always had a fascination towards consuming unique stories, unique entertainment content, be it, anime, manga, videos, I mean, I've been a big sort of, content consumer of all formats. And I think one of the key, I feel, primary reasons I got really inspired by content platforms was frankly, the fact that, um, you know, um, throughout history, if you want to create art and distribute art, you have to go to a gatekeeper, right? I mean, for distribution. And I think when I was building these short video products and a bunch of content platforms, and of course seeing YouTube and other platforms as well, I started realizing that if you treat content as an art form, like, I mean, it's an art essentially that is created, right? Now any artist can actually get distribution on his or her own merit, right? Not that they would have to go to a middleman or a gatekeeper and get distribution, right? So I think I think that really inspired me, because it has never been possible throughout history, right? I mean, it's just been very difficult for artists to get distribution on their merit. So that really inspired me. I wanted to do something in content, right? Because I was just thinking of more opportunities where a new art form can reach millions of users. A new art form that can be brought to life is something that I always was thinking continuously. So when this sort of when I was working in Paytm and commuting 3 hours a day, I started craving for entertainment and audio, frankly, because I was like, I mean, self-help books are great. I think it's a great format to consume books, but I want entertainment, right? And I think I just at that point I couldn't find any. Be it, I mean, not just in Indian languages, even not in English, right? Because most audiobooks and even podcasts for that matter is still towards learning, right? You want to ship people sharing like this one, people sharing their own experiences and conversations. So I think I felt that the entertainment, there was a huge vacuum in entertainment, audio entertainment. Like if you think about the video spectrum, you have video entertainment platforms from Netflix, which is a long form spectrum, to short form spectrum in TikTok. But in audio, that spectrum was missing, right? There was literally no entertainment layer. And I, as I said, I mean, I was really inspired by building content platforms to
Understand.
give new art forms to life. So that's when it started.
Right.
Yeah.
So the content inspiration, kind of propelled you to think of building something, but the switch from becoming a
Yeah.
person working for a company to starting a company is still, a lot of people are
Yeah.
inspired by things. So
Yeah.
what helped you make the leap?
So I think, frankly, I think for me it was I felt that contrary to what people told me at that time, that it's a risky thing and all that, I never felt that it was I felt it's the right time to do it, because I really wanted, because I've been working in startups had been working in startups the last 3-4 years, so I've closely worked with founders. So I think it was majorly the fact that I was curious to see how it would be to start a company, how to scale it. And of course, I've seen good things and bad things about, I mean, the startup process. And I think I just felt that, it could be, I mean, I was just frankly curious. And at that point of time, I felt that, uh, this would be a great learning experience, frankly. And I think that's the way I was thinking about it is not that, hey, will this work, will this not work? The idea was that, worst case, even if this doesn't work, I'm pretty sure I'll learn, like, it'll be compressed learnings of many years into a short period of time.
What
Because
about
that's
the
the
gaming angle here? Because now you obviously started thinking
Yeah,
like
I
that.
think that was one. I think so. So I think, of course, this was one, like, a reason. I mean, in this game, I think it was more important for me to learn, right? So I think, and I also felt that, of course, hindsight may always think that, hey, this could be a great addition to level up for sure. Yeah.
Thanks, Rohan. And great point to segue into our topic for this episode, which is building for Bharat. Can you go back to the story? And it was kind of a personal problem for you. You wanted better audio content, right? How did you then go about tackling that problem and validating that you weren't the only person that felt that way, right?
Yeah, so I think when I realized that there's a huge gap in the audio entertainment space overall, I think the first thing I go for any content insights is frankly YouTube, right? I mean, it's a platform which has all the content insights. So I think I approached Nishant, who is my co-founder, Nishant and Prateek, my co-founders, and upon sort of researching YouTube, what we found was in India there were these YouTube creators who have like millions of views, millions of subscribers. And what they used to do was they used to put out, upload videos with one thumbnail and like 10-15 minutes of audio. And I was like, this is not audio. This is not video. Sorry, this is not video. This is audio. This is
It's
mass.
audio and
Yeah, it's just
yeah.
hacking YouTube, because there's no way to upload like sort of pure audio. And then surprisingly, what I saw was that if you look, I looked at the comments and even the description, the comments were like, can you give me an audio file, right? And then the creator was putting audio download description, right? I mean, you can download it in audio. And when I approached some of these creators, right, they told me that, hey, we are not video creators. We essentially want to create audio. And in fact, the creators were telling us that they actually have a WhatsApp group where they share the audio files with their with their subscribers. And I was like, hey, this is pretty interesting. Why and why does when consumer has to make sure the lock screen doesn't get, make sure the screen doesn't get locked and watch this, try to consume this audio content.
No, it's
And I
interesting.
think that was sort of gave, and this was and these videos used to have like millions of views, right? It's not like 100,000, and very very high sort of traction.
Yeah,
So
there's
that's
demand for that, right? People actually wanted it. Yeah. No, and it's
yeah,
like we actually sort of experienced a similar thing, right? We started off with audio, and I think that's what we wanted to do, have conversations
yeah,
about startups. But YouTube seemed like it made
yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
I think that's how it started. I think we validated that there's a demand, right? I mean, these content pieces used to be on YouTube stories, and in some cases used to be even just just knowledge content, frankly. So I think I think that's how we got deep conviction that hey, users do want audio, and then we started Pocket FM.
So I was talking to some of these influencers, seeing the traction on YouTube, and then you started. And can you tell us a bit more about that? I mean, for our listeners, you have more than 15 million monthly active listeners. That's incredible growth in a very short span of time. So how did that happen? And talk us through that process.
Sure. I think, I think the first couple of years was just a phase of experimentation for us, frankly. We were very clear that we didn't want to grow until we achieve what we, until we achieve product market fit and a growth channel product fit. So I'll go through these two steps.
Okay.
So for us, I think it was firstly, we wanted to, of course, like any consumer product, wanted to make sure that that your users are sticking with sticking to Pocket FM. They're consuming it over a period of time, which means essentially your retention cohorts flattening out over a period of time, and of course and seeing good engagement. So I think initially what we did was we said that, hey, of course we got some insights from YouTube, but then let's not have any bias towards what has worked in the West or what's working elsewhere. Let's just start from scratch and just test out every format, bunch of creators, and see what's sticking, right? So I think the first year, frankly, was and I think one of the mistakes we made was we didn't do experiments faster. So the idea was that I think the first year was just pure experimentation. Every investor meeting we used to, and our investors were very supportive, that we were very clear that the focus is not on growth, focus is not on increasing MAUs, etc. The focus is just to understand what works, and once it works, then it should be easy. So I think the first year was, what we did was we used to conduct like at least have like sometimes 4 experiments a week on just
Or a
content
week
format.
was not
Yeah,
fast enough. That's
yeah, I think I'll get to the point when I mean not fast enough, but it was usually 4 experiments a week, like on content formats, content genres, product onboarding. I mean, essentially, and then how do you make sure that the user comes repeatedly, right?
okay.
All those hooks. So I think we used to do a lot of experiments on each and every aspect, right? Like be it content, like each of these four sort of verticals, a bunch of experiments. And I think towards the end of the first year, we were able to understand what works, what content genres would actually have higher traction, and also how the product onboarding should be, how the product experience should be for higher retention. And I think that was just the first step, though.
Yeah, no, I want to like spend a few minutes kind of diving into that first step a bit. Something that I find fascinating. We run experiments all the time. How did you go about doing that though? Like I think one of the problems that early stage startups have is you don't have as much data, right? You can't just run a bunch of A/B tests like how a large tech company would do. So I would love to learn a bit, understand a bit more about how you ran experiments and how you kind of validated some of your hypotheses.
So I think there's a big learning that frankly I had, personal learning that I had here, is the fact that, in early stage startup, you're not really looking for, incremental changes in metrics. You're not looking for like 5-10% changes,
Right.
right? You're looking for like, hey, my number is off by 2x or 3x, right? So I think whenever you're experimenting, especially in early stages, and it's very easy to get too deep into execution such that you are just iterating over your last experiment, right? In the sense
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it's important to take a step back and see if the direction right. So that, like, if the direction is correct, then you don't have then if you keep iterating, you will get there. But if the direction is wrong, no matter how much you try, you will be quite far off. You'll be making like 5-10% changes, but that again doesn't work for an early stage startup, right?
But it's
So I
really
think,
difficult to do, because if you really believe something's going to work, and then how do you
yeah,
how do you
that's the
experiment?
biggest learning, frankly. And I'm still trying to improve on that skill, which is essentially understanding that it's the right time to challenge your assumptions and change the direction. And when I mean change the direction, I mean, like, if you're solving a specific problem, let's say you're solving for product. I'm just giving a small example. If solving product onboarding, if you're solving for the right genres, right? If something is giving you 10% impact, unless until your assumptions are absolutely incorrect, right, this direction won't work, right?
Yeah.
And I think so I think for us, I think this is where I was saying we didn't do experiments. Yeah, we could have been faster, is essentially realizing that this approach will only lead to incremental stuff. So I think for an early stage startup, it's absolutely important when you're designing experiments. It's very important to challenge your assumptions, not get emotionally attached to it. That, hey, this approach, I've thought too deeply and I'm pretty sure it'll work. But if it's not working, you take a step back and change the direction. And that is actually probably the most impactful thing a founder could do, is essentially point the team in the right direction, right? I mean, if this direction towards any problem, it could be like retention, engagement, monetization. If the direction is right, then you'll probably get there.
No, and that's a really good insight. It's not the speed of experiments in terms of the volume of number of experiments you churn out, but it's how quickly you change direction with each
Yeah.
experiment,
Yeah, I
especially in
think
early
that's
stages.
absolutely important. Yeah. Yeah.
And so now moving on, this was the first phase. What kind of the next phases of growth?
The second was, I think, we realized that, although we have PMF, we've been able to figure out what works, and, users are sticking with the product for a long period of time, your cohorts are stabilizing. But the second problem is, how do you grow, right? And I think in growth, it's not just about, spending money on ads, right? It's about a growth channel which will give you your high quality users and at a sustainable CAC, right? And I think this is where this actually took us a lot more time, frankly, than PMF, because frankly, if I see, like, a lot of startups actually, in the early days, struggle with finding the right growth channel. And that is, I mean, it's PMF is talked about a lot, but growth channel product fit growth channel product fit is not talked about often. And what I mean by that is, if growth is a science for me, it's not some, it's essentially, it's just because, the more deeper you go into growth, you realize that, again, you have to design experimentation engine for growth, but for finding the right channel for yourself. And I mean right channel, I mean every consumer product would have an activation metric. This is a metric where you feel your users, like, see an inflection point in engagement or retention. If for us it was, if a user consumes approximately 1 hour of content of any show or any series, right, their retention used to be way different from, let's say,
You
someone who
come
doesn't.
back to listen to more episodes
Right.
of the show.
So now my growth channel objective is, how do I get more activations, right? Initially, that right, and
These are
it's
shows
not
that are activated on your platform that reach that 1 hour mark.
that reached that
X
1
number
hour
of
mark.
users. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So I
it's a
think,
1 hour mark with X number of users. Is an absolute number, or like I'm just trying to understand how these.
yeah, so it would be something like this, right? So if 100 users download the app, how many would cross 1 hour, right?
Got it.
So for Facebook, it was, I think, 5 friends within 7 days. That used to be their activation metric. So their entire product growth channels were built around that, right? So I think for us, it was this metric.
I would like to talk about some of the challenges, right?
Sure.
First of all, you're doing these experiments, and also, you're dealing with multiple different regional languages. Was there a lot of difference in terms of, localization of your product, different formats that worked or didn't, or not really?
Yeah, I think in audio, the biggest problem was the fact that it was a chicken and egg problem. There was literally no content in the ecosystem,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So it was essentially the fact that whenever you're starting a new language, it's like you start from scratch. So, and in the initial days, it was very tough. We were focused on like Hindi when we started. And of course, now we are into multiple languages, but yeah, I think and it's still a challenge, frankly. It's not something, that it's one of the biggest challenges for us is frankly the content, right? I mean, you need really high quality content on the platform to keep engaging users, to make them pay for content, right? And I think and this is a relatively, it's sort of a new category I feel that we are trying to create in audio entertainment, right? It's, for instance, when video OTT exists, when video OTT started, you already had a lot of legacy content
Yeah,
already.
like a huge bank of stuff, which you
Yeah,
were.
it's huge bank, but when audio OTT, when it started, there was no bank, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So I think, so that's the reason I think, there's a lot of challenge in, expanding a creator community, nurturing your community to create actually higher quality content. So I think that still remains a challenge. I mean, that's something that we're always trying to, sort of let learn, and how can we do faster. But I think the initial days was quite tough.
yeah. I can imagine when you're starting from, and you spoke about quality, and obviously, this activation metric is part of it. What else did you do to ensure
Yeah.
that you got high quality content?
Sure. I think, I think it's very difficult to predict which content is going to be high quality,
Yeah, I can imagine, especially
right?
if you don't speak the
It's almost
language, right?
impossible, right?
Yeah.
So I think for us, it was very clear that we wanted to ensure that that we enable or empower our creator community with actionable data. So if I give an example, right? So one of the most popular formats of content is audio series on our platform. It's long form audio content. Think of it like a TV show equivalent into audio, right? So it's an episodic content. One episode gets uploaded every day, right? Now, so this requires high quality writing, right? I mean,
Yes. And
can't
production quality, and
you can't mess up even one episode, frankly,
yeah.
if as a writer. So I think for us, what we realized was that as you are as the writer is writing, and also it's getting made into audio at the same time, the users were actually giving a lot of interesting data and feedback, both qualitative and quantitative. So for instance, we used to give our writers a drop from, let's say, episode 20 to episode 21, like, how much users dropped from 20 to 21, right? And
For each
serialized
episode.
in serialized fiction, retention is everything, retention of the show. So
Yeah.
so the writers realized that, oh, I actually did something, I mean, pissed users in episode 21, because of which I lost, like, let's say, 15% of our users. Then and then I think they also used to read the comments, and users, are saying that, hey, you should not have done this. Why did you do this with this character and all that? I'm leaving the show, and something like that, right? So I think that was actually a pretty good learning experience for writers, because we realized that, hey, I mean, of course, we created our own playbooks. We have our own tutorial videos on from experts on how you create good long form fiction content. But I think what helped was, frankly, these actionable analytics plus users' feedbacks.
No, that's amazing. I mean, it's almost like creating a feedback loop, which doesn't exist
Yeah.
today.
Frankly, it's very difficult to have feedback loop in, like, let's say, in like PGC or PUGC content. Like, you create a TV show all at once, and then you see how people are behaving,
You
right?
can't A/B test it, right? Like, it's just
Yeah,
what you put out there, then you have to react
yeah, yeah,
afterwards. That's
exactly.
the
But here, as it's episodic, right? So you get real-time feedback, right? It's audio. It's not like you have to shoot and it takes like a year to shoot, right? So it's like simple audio production. You can quickly check your feedbacks, and in some cases, some cases, if the writer is okay, if the users really feel that what the writer did was not good, and you should move the story in some other direction, the writer does it. so Again, it
so
depends
they
on the
come
writer.
back then.
So they come back, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, iterative, I think content creation whenever it becomes iterative, it becomes really powerful. And that's when you can nurture a community to actually improve the content quality.
But that's quite unique, right? That's something that the OTT platforms can't really do.
Can't do, yeah. Yeah.
So that's and now, taking a step back, right? Like let's talk about content more generally, not just audio. And for content creators, what I mean, it's hard to monetize in India, is kind of what you've been told. What are your thoughts on that? Is that going to change? Can people make a career out of being an audio content creator or a
Yeah.
well, I mean, YouTubers are a lot, but
Yeah, I think for us, frankly, one of our, whenever we're thinking about a creator community and how do we, for instance, as we were discussing, how do we solve the sort of the content problem in this ecosystem, right? It again, everything points to making sure that, of course, you have a large creator community and you nurture them, and at the same time, make sure that they can make a living out of it. Because the moment, what we realized is the moment content creators sort of make revenue, again, the quality of content just changes, right? Of course. And I think we have been trying our best to do that, and I think it's it's possible. I think in fact a lot of our creators, frankly, the top creators are making reasonable revenue, more than, let's say, some of these writers were making from let's say publishing books, or and just they used to just go and pitch for web series, right? So most of the writers, they have huge talent in India, right? Most of them are either trying to publish their books or go to pitch for a web series. And we know web series percentages, right? It's less than 1% acceptance, right? Of course, like how many web series even gets made here. But I think what audio is enabling these writers is that there's so many unique and unheard stories that are out there. And there's so many talented writers. Audio is just giving a platform for these stories to reach actually millions of users, frankly. This is a starting step for writers now, in the sense that they come to Pocket FM, they have their audio stories. These are very, very unique stories. Frankly, some of these stories, even in genres which you never expect, like sci-fi, fantasy, right, in India. And these are so unique, and writers are, creating these, and Pocket FM is a stepping stone for them. If it's really successful in audio, we're also now helping them getting produced into video and other formats, frankly, right? But I think for
Right.
audio, I think we definitely feel we are actually focusing a lot on, ever since 2020, this year, 2022, we have been focusing on monetization and one of the key reasons we have been doing that is so that we can so that our creators can make more revenue.
No, makes a lot of sense. And you've probably seen the industry evolve quite a bit. I think the pandemic really helped all kinds of content, audio probably more disproportionately so. Can you just share some general trends that you've seen that you find interesting?
Yeah, so I think audio is probably like one of the most intimate forms of content. It's like it's in your ears, right? So you get connected a lot more with, let's say, the host or the creator or even the characters of the story, right? And I think probably one of the most powerful forms of story for sharing stories and knowledge. But what has happened over the last 3 years is the fact that when you typically think about audio consumption, you think that hey, people will be consuming in commute, during housework, morning, evening walks, and so on. But we are noticing two interesting trends in audio consumption. One is that we see a peak in consumption at 3 p.m., which is lunchtime, right? Or post lunch, sorry. And one is before around 10:30 p.m., which is before sleeping, right? So essentially what that really means is that for users are consuming audio content just for relaxation, where they don't want to look at a screen. Right. And of course, you have those morning commute use cases and evening walk, morning walks, all that, and even housework. But these two use cases of just people want to relax and just put in the earphones and chill for a while, it's something which is pretty unique and actually is expanding the scope of audio content, frankly.
Yeah, like I'd never thought about it, but that makes so much sense. It's a different consumer behavior completely, as opposed to a YouTube video and OTT platform. And,
yeah. So I feel that because of these sort of changes in audio consumption patterns, audio will become a much more important like part of a daily life.
Amazing. I've been a content creator. I don't didn't start specifically with audio. Obviously, now you realize we're doing a lot of stuff, but text has been my go-to format. I think it still is. The other interesting observation that I had largely as we were talking about philosophy is human beings have invented storytelling formats: audio, then text, then visual, and then video. Video is the latest. And the interesting thing is there is no single platform that has broken out for audio.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Unlike text and visuals. So for text you have Twitter or LinkedIn or others. For visual you have Instagram. For video you have YouTube. And that's one big thesis I have, that there'll be a really large scale audio network. Maybe I would say Spotify is one, but social
yeah.
ish nature to it, I think that still lacks. So pretty awesome to see how you guys are building this out. What does the future look like? So you raised a round this year, which should give you more fuel to scale. But what's the plan? Where do you see Pocket FM going with this? Where do you scale to?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it's pretty much right now, a white space, right? Audio entertainment primarily, right? And of course, right now, despite, I mean, we started with audio entertainment, with audio series, we're expanding into audiobooks and podcasts, right? In India, and we're actually going pretty aggressive there. But I feel the focus for us is, I mean, is simple, is just expanding creator community and expanding the kind of quality of content and the volume of content on the platform. Because as I said, I mean, I think, in this ecosystem, whoever has the best exclusive content on the platform is going to be the winner. And I think, and because this is how you provide more value to your listeners, is providing them great content. And as this is a ecosystem where content didn't really exist, right? So I think it's a good and a bad. I mean, there are good and bad things both. Good thing is that if you have a really good creator community, and that acts as a moat for any new entrant. And of course, bad thing is you have to do it. I mean, it's effort, right? It takes a lot of effort and time, frankly. So I think for us, I think we would just want to focus more on expanding the breadth and depth of our content repository by expanding our creator community, helping our creators create more high quality content. And of course, then we are also expanding into newer categories of audio. So on audiobooks and podcasts, we feel audio series the audio entertainment is the largest right now, and we'll soon we're already expanding into other categories. But for us, I think I feel there's literally I mean, audio is, as I said, a white space. It can become huge. We feel that we think about the video entertainment space, right? That's like sort of like the potential of audio, right? I mean, it's literally not explored. So for us, I think this year specifically, we're also focusing more on sort of sustainable growth, right? I mean, last year 2021 was where we grew rapidly. We were able to prove that, hey, this is a business, this is a product which will be consumed by hundreds of millions of users. So this year, we have, starting of this year, we have focused more on more on monetization and how do you build a sustainable business model, and we're seeing great progress.
Right.
And I think, of course, the global situation also played well into that, frankly. Yeah.
Makes sense. And in your game dynamic situation, where does this lie now? Right? What's the next
I think it's just getting started. I mean, I can't quantify the level,
right?
but I think I think, I mean, there's a lot more levels to sort of upgrade into.
And do those levels include expanding into other geographies, like taking it to broader markets? Is that also part of the plan?
Yeah, we are exploring, frankly, expanding into other markets. I think we're continuously experimenting, and and there's something definitely on the cards. Yeah.
Understand. I think India is a very radio educated market. I would imagine there are also Asian, at least Southeast Asian or South Asian countries that have that similar behavior which you could tap into. And your name
Yeah.
is also not like
Yeah.
Desi, so it's relatable. I'm sure Pocket FM could be, but that's interesting.
Yeah.
No, very fascinating conversation. Just to close it out, why we call this Founders Unfiltered. What's one piece of unfiltered feedback or advice you've received in your journey? Either it could be when you were working or as a founder that really changed the way you think of things. Brutal, honest is better. Something that made you stop and think, what the hell?
Yeah, I think there are many, frankly. I think
You had to pick one. Like,
just, yeah, I know, I know. I think one would be in the early days. I think I was touching upon with Mazin also, is the feedback that I had gotten was, see, I mean, I came from a background of product management where, it's more about execution, right? And this is what you want to build, execute. I think initial days, what used to happen was I used to get too deep into execution, right? I mean, this is a direction I'm executing all the time. Oh, this didn't work. Let's plan this. Let's do that. Let's do this. And I think what I realized was, it's sometimes really important to challenge your assumptions. Let's say you have a hypothesis of how this will work, right? And you just go down that rabbit hole iterating. Where as a product manager, that's what I used to do. And I think as a founder, as a leader, that changes, right? You can't get emotionally attached. So the feedback I had gotten at that time was, why are you so emotionally attached to this? And I think just take a step back, challenge the assumptions, because changing direction and challenging assumptions there's a huge friction, right? You feel like I spent 2 months, 3 months, 4 months in this, and then you're asking me to now change. But that I feel as a founder or leader is the most impactful thing anyone can do. That if you can, as a founder or leader, spot, hey, this direction is wrong. This is the right direction, right? Just change it. I think that makes all the difference. I think that has what helped us, frankly, sort of grow. Is essentially for me also regularly just challenging my assumptions and making sure that I don't get trapped into the execution rabbit hole. So as a founder, it's very important not to, just get trapped in that execution approach. So that's something feedback that I mean, that also applies to personal life, frankly. So I think, so for me, it was like pretty interesting that, I started like, I have a little, I mean, sort of a policy that my personal policy that I have to challenge my assumptions every very regularly and make sure that, not heading the right direction personally and professionally both.
No, that's awesome. And just, building on that, how regular is that? And, my question, I generally don't ask a question on unfiltered advice, but this one's interesting. So how often do you question the assumptions? And it's important to understand that because some people believe that, hey, I have this vision and I must stick to it. And sometimes, you are just struggling, but you have to go through. So how do you know that this is the go through moment or this is the let's drop this moment?
Yeah.
How to make that call and what's the frequency?
So I think it depends on the problem in question, right? For instance, if you talk about like making audio entertainment work, I mean, that's something I mean, it was a vision, so we had to go through. But I think, but executing on like multiple levels, executing across content product growth requires a lot of problem solving individually, right? In each of these areas. So I think we actually, I mean, I personally, within the Pocket FM, we have a very massive experimentation culture. We do, even now today, we do like 3 experiments a week, frankly, across all verticals. So for bigger things, it takes a month. Every month I need to get back that, is the content community approach right? Are we and because, if something is, especially if something is not working. So if things are working, then direction is okay. If the things are moving by, let's say, a very like a small metrics are moving by small percentages or something that you didn't expect, then I make it. Then actually I change. Then the kind of experiments we do are radical. I think it's very important to understand radical experimentation versus incremental experimentation, right? So radical experimentation requires challenging your assumptions, right? So for most bigger things, I do once a month. But for smaller things, like it could be as low as once a week, frankly, on weekends primarily. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Rohan. Love the chat.
Thanks, Aviral. Thanks, Mazin. It was great chatting with you.